Well, great evening and welcome everyone to Cedric Unplugged Leadership Insights, where we examine leadership at the level it demands. This is a space for leaders who are serious about growth and serious about responsibility and serious about influence. Leadership is not position, it's posture. It's how you show up when decisions carry weight. See, when expectations are high, when no one is applauding, leadership is built privately long before it's recognized publicly. If you lead a team, this matters. If you lead an organization, this matters. And if you lead a vision, this absolutely matters. See, leadership is not a title, it's influence. And influence must be earned. And today, we're applying that principle to professional branding. So let's take a step away from the noise and focus on what actually builds influence. Now, on a recent episode, Dr. 𝗟𝗲𝗃𝗿𝗂 and I discussed personal branding, who you are, what you stand for, and the reputation your name carries in every room. Your personal brand is identity, values, voice, character. It's how people experience you. But today, we shift the lens because while personal branding speaks to who you are, professional branding speaks to how who you are performs. One builds connection, the other builds credibility. And if you're an entrepreneur, you don't have the luxury of choosing one. You can be authentic and still lack authority. You can be skilled and still lack visibility. Professional branding determines whether doors open, whether rooms listen, and whether leadership opportunities expand towards you. This conversation isn't about self-promotion. It's about strategic positioning because influence without positioning rarely scales. So tonight, I have a special guest with me. And tonight, we're going to have this conversation about professional branding. So tonight's conversation is with a leader whose career reflects depth and credibility. 𝗟𝗲𝗱𝗿𝗀𝗃𝗿 Menifield is a retired federal executive and now a high-performance coach, trainer, speaker, and mentor at Menifield and Associates LLC. She transitioned from structured federal leadership into entrepreneurial impact and understands how professional branding shapes long-term credibility. Angela, welcome to Cedric Unplugged.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, I'm excited to be here with you tonight as well. So again, thank you for tuning in tonight, audience. As you know, we want your interaction and engagement in the chat. So feel free to chime in along the way, right? Well, before we talk about influence, before we talk about authority, before we talk about impact, we need to clarify. See, leaders always communicate by clarifying things, right? Because you can't build what you don't define, right? So Angela, when you hear the phrase professional branding, what does that mean to you?
So when I hear the phrase professional branding, the first thing I always think about is when people think about you, your business, the services you provide, what is it that jumps out at them? What do they think about? And how does those thoughts separate you from everybody else who is doing similar work or providing similar services? Because branding, sometimes we think about it as how we see ourselves, but I'm always reminded that the true essence of what branding is how others see us.
Yes. Absolutely. I love that. So, Angela, so what I want to do is think about how you transition from federal government services to entrepreneurship, right? So, how did
Mhm.
your professional reputation impact that shift?
Well, when I was working for the federal government, it was just always instilled in me whenever I left the office, anytime I was on a call or whatever the work was that I was doing, ultimately I was representing the organization because nobody was going to say if something went left or right. Oh, Angela did yada, yada, yada. Half the people probably didn't even know my name. But what they were going to say is that government employee, that USDA employee, right? So understanding the power of how we show up and how we represent really resonated with me. And my journey with the federal government, like I was one of those employees that I always say I am the typical the story that people say they aspire to do. Oh, I'm going to work myself up from the bottom to the top. Because when I was first hired, I was a GS5, step one, government employee. And for anybody who knows anything about federal service and GS grades, five step one is the lowest grade and step you can be at that entry level point where they call the professional ranks.
Mhm.
And a GS15, step 10 is the highest grade and step you can be. And by the time I left, I was at the GS15 and had pretty much maxed that out. So, in other words, I literally started at the lowest grade and worked my way up. And what I understood at each level, too, because I wanted to advance, don't most people?
Sure.
How I showed up was going to impact my next opportunity. So I took all of that knowledge and awareness that I had used or leveraged in my federal career and then used it to think about what is that brand I want for myself? What is the reputation when people think about Menifield and Associates? And like you, Cedric, I named my business after me. So that was even more powerful, right? Because when you attach your name, your last name to your business, nobody is going to separate the two.
Right.
And for me, that was very important. And I think it helped me also because I had been a good employee. And I think sometimes in order to be a good entrepreneur, it helps. I'm gonna say it's necessary, but it helps to have been a solid employee somewhere else.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree with you. So, what do you think is the difference between marketing yourself and building a professional brand?
So when I think about marketing myself, I think about, marketing is more about, the catchphrases, the what do you, how do you get people's attention? What are you selling? Your brand is more about what do you represent? What do you stand for? What are
Mm,
your values, your culture? So when people think about your brand, what they're thinking about is, they'll say things like, for instance, people who know me, like my brand personality is professional, competent, things like that. It is certain things people would never expect to see my brand attached to, like some nonsense, right? Like, people, twerking or doing something somewhere. Like if somebody saw my business attached to something like that, they'd be like, oh, that can't be Angela. That can't be Menifield and Associates. So that's branding. Like, how do people know you? What do they think about when they see your business name? And again, I hope they think about professionalism, expertise, high quality, engaging, words like that. But marketing is all about, if I got an offer out there and I'm like, okay, hey, I'm trying to sell this, what's the catchphrase? How do I get people's attention? My marketing should align with my branding, but it's definitely separate than my branding.
yeah, absolutely. I love that. So, do you believe that professional branding is built intentionally or is it revealed over time?
I think it's a little bit of both. I would say an astute business intentionally tries to build their brand. The success is revealed over time if then how people perceive that brand is in alignment with they intentionally wanted to do. We see examples every day. I'm sure you've probably seen, because I know you read a lot of articles and watch current events like I do. Like recently, some of the Cracker Barrel fiasco, right? Like they wanted to shift a little bit. And so they took some of the novelty pieces out of what their brand had been. And what they found out very quickly is people didn't want that. People were like, hey, hey, hey. And it wasn't about the food. It was clearly about their brand. So it reveals itself over time, but the intentionality piece has to be there. And what we saw happen in that situation was they pulled back on the switch, right? Because they saw this wasn't working.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, this wasn't it. Okay. So try something else. So, I want to transition just a little bit here. Definition gives us language, right? We have to understand that part, right? But leadership requires evidence, right? Because branding isn't cosmetic, it's directional, right? It determines who listens, who trusts you, who follows you. So, Angela, when we think about this, what I want to transition to is from definition to authority, right? So how does professional branding impact leadership credibility?
So if we start with the premise, firstly, that everybody's a leader. Okay, so leadership is not the title, it's not the position, it's really how we leverage our influence. And then that lends itself to the awareness that credibility is all about being who you say you are. I think it impacts professional branding, impacts that, because if the two are not congruent or they're not in harmony, then there's going to be a disconnect with your audience. It's like, again, me trying to sell something that's not in alignment with who I am or my credibility in that space. So people won't adapt to it. They won't, tie into it because and they won't even know why, and that's the thing about it sometimes. Like sometimes, you'll just say, that just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel natural. We'll see it and we'll say, oh, that's interesting. But we won't have that congruency or that alignment. And as a result of it, I don't think we'll see the success that we're hoping for our businesses. It doesn't mean that we're lying. It's just that there's a disconnect. Yeah. And so often what is lacking sometimes, which is why I know you and I do a lot of work together with Dr. Nick as well, when we try to help people understand their brand message, and they know what they want to be, but maybe sometimes they're so guarded, so people don't get to see the real them. And so then that professional branding is not in alignment with their leadership credibility, even though it's actually not inaccurate, if it makes sense the way I'm saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, it's one of the things I've always complimented you on. I think you do better than most people that I know. Like your authenticity as a leader is very transparent. And you show up both personally and professionally the same way. Like I've been working with you now, Cedric, for what, 6 years? I was 7 years, on a regular basis. I knew you before, but I know what to anticipate from you. I know what you're going to react to. I know how you're going to respond to 9 out of 10 things, right? Because you're in alignment. Your words align. And so it shows up your branding as well as your credibility. And I think that's how professional branding really impacts the professional or the leadership credibility.
I love that. So in your experience, how does professional branding open doors that talent alone sometimes cannot? Because see, everybody has talent, right? We're all born with some type of talent.
Yes. So I love that question. I love that question because as you mentioned, everybody has a talent, but professional branding gives you, goes back to that previous question, that credibility. Like people are willing to take a risk or a chance. you know, they may not buy your $10,000 offer the first time, but they would at least be willing to invest in something and say, you know what, that brand looks like something that I can connect with, I can align with. It seems consistent. So let me go ahead and make this, you know, $50 offer, this $200 offer. I've spent, you know, that, you know, on a big dinner with my family.
Mhm.
And they don't even know if you have talent yet, but they see how you posture or position yourself, and it feels like it's congruent or in alignment with who you say you are and how you've been showing up. And so your message is consistent with the behavior, and therefore they'll give you a chance.
You know, you're so spot on with what you just said, Angela. I know that several contracts that I got in school systems and in the corporate world was not because they heard me speak.
Mhm.
It's because either they talked with me or they heard someone else said, "This guy is this, this, and this," right? And then they reached out and said, "So and so told me about you, and I believe you're the person to help us do what X," right?
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right about all the points that you made.
Can I can I add something else about you in there? Not, and again, people know I give Cedric and Nicole compliments all the time. I'm just going to be authentic. But even the first time I recommended you to somebody who had a question about a school, I'd never seen you present.
Yeah,
But I'd seen enough, right? Like, and I knew you were passionate about it. It was clear in your message and your branding, how you talked about um, your passion for helping young people and the adults who work with young people, right? Because the school is the whole ecosystem. I
right.
saw it in your messaging that you were like, oh, I did this today with custodians and the cafeteria people. Like, it spoke to, and then if you go to your website and how you brand it and talk about leadership and how you also, you know, co-sign the belief is for everybody. We don't, you know, none of us say it's only for the CEO. We believe everybody is a leader. And so
Yes.
that's your brand. And so when somebody said, you know, other people wanted to learn how to do this work for schools, I was like, follow Cedric. And so to me, that is actually a testament to it, because I had never seen you in a school when I recommended you to be that person. Now I've
Right.
seen you in action. You're pretty good. You know, I'll give you a little credit, but I started referring you based on how well you brand yourself and how strong you were, beyond the talent.
Well, one, thank you very much for that. Two, I believe that if you are authentic, number one,
Mhm.
you brand whatever that is going to be for you, and then you operate with clarity in your in your conversation. People then get attracted to that. People then help you get exposed to other people you don't know. So it's like the ABCs of building your business, right?
Mhm.
Being authentic, branded, operate with clarity. When you
I
do
agree.
that, people understand it better, and with clarity, performance accelerates.
Definitely, definitely. I agree wholeheartedly.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, you know, here's a distinction that's emerging, right? Professional branding isn't self-promotion. That's what I'm getting from our conversation, right?
Correct.
It's leadership positioning,
Mhm.
and positioning determines access. And folks, when I talk about access, I'm talking about what I said in my monologue, right? Who is going to allow you to who's going to open doors for you, who's going to give you room, uh, I'm sorry, who's going to open doors for you, who's going to listen to you when you're in the room, and whether leadership opportunities expand toward you, right? So we have to understand that, and with that, we're going to go a little bit deeper. All right, so now, how does professional branding affect trust? See, we started at the definition. Then we went to authority. Now we're going to talk about trust. So how does professional branding affect trust, especially in coaching and leadership development?
You know, one of the core components of being viewed as a solid leader is that people have to trust you. You know, we can pull up any study for any decade, for even different centuries, right? And they will tell you that the core characteristics of good leadership include trust. And so if your brand is not trustworthy, and again, we you know, now I'm not going to defame any brands tonight, but we have all been associated or connected to a brand that the moment we hear, we be like, you know, we kind of make that face because we know maybe the quality isn't as good, or, you know, how they handle returns or dependability. It takes 5 hours to answer the phone or get a response or whatever that thing may be, right? But that's all attached to your brand too, because I don't think sometimes people understand that everything is your brand. You know, the tone of your message, that's a brand message. And so when you're in the coaching and leadership development space, number one, you're asking people to put the care and keeping of their growth into your business's hand. And that's not easy to ask people to do. The other part of this is, you know, as much as everybody wants to be better, it is often hard for people to find the money, quote unquote, let them tell it, in their budgets to invest in the betterment. And so when you get a person to even make that leap to say, first, self-awareness, I know in order for me to take myself and my business to that next level, I need coaching and leadership development, or my team needs that. That's the first leap. Then the second leap is to earmark that money and procure it. That's huge. And so now I don't trust you. Are you kidding me? So professional branding affects that trust. And that's why some people can listen to your whole pitch, sit in your discovery meeting. You say you will do everything that they want you to do, and yet they won't sign on the dotted line. And that's an indicator that you didn't transfer the confidence, and I'll substitute confidence right now instead of trust, right? You didn't transfer that over. And as a result of that, they don't sign on the dotted line. And when they do trust you, they say, I don't care what it costs. Just give me the paper. Let's go. We'll figure it out. Like somebody I gave a proposal to recently. I said, well, I know you're a nonprofit and we talk a lot about budget. You know, do you want to share what your budget is? They said, I will find the money for you to do this for us because this is how much I believe you can help us. And to me, that was the perfect example that my professional brand, they trusted to do the coach and leadership development for that nonprofit.
Yeah, I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying. And, you know, what I try to tell individuals, and we're going to be doing a lot more of this here soon, is if you want to command a $200,000 engagement, you have to stop selling training and coaching and speaking and start selling initiative protection, right? Execution consistency, leadership alignment, culture stabilization, risk mitigation. That's what senior leaders buy. They don't buy coaching and speaking and training.
That's a mouthful right there. But you're exactly right. You know, because the contract, just to add to that, the contract was written not for, you know, like you said, coaching and all of that. It was actually performance consultation, right? But it's the same work because they want another level of performance to take that organization to a higher level. But coaching, as you said, that's just like, well, what is that? And that's the one thing too, I think being in this space, we have to think about, because you know as well as I do, you know, you scroll on Facebook, there's a coaching certification on every corner, right?
Right.
And some of the people we know got all of them.
Right.
However, Where are the receipts? And I don't mean the receipts for what they paid for. I mean the receipts for the deposits, right? Because people aren't seeing, though, they see you still learning and they're really happy for you. And you'll get 800 likes and, 50 comments, congratulations, or whatever. But how did that transfer into how you speak about the service and the transformation that you can bring to an organization or a company or its senior leadership? Because that's what people are looking for. And at a certain point, we got to niche that thing too, right? Like we can't just be coaches. I'm a coach. I'm a business coach. Okay. What business? Who you coaching?
That part.
Tell me about your most successful client, right? And then they start, well, I had this. No. What's your impact? How are you serving people? And you got to know that. But some of that, again, is figuring out how to tie my brand to who I serve and the results that I'm getting and the quality that people can expect every day, all day.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't, I have to agree with you wholeheartedly with this. And, I was talking to a superintendent recently and we were going over this potential contract and said, look, this is not about a speaking engagement. This is district level communication transformation partnership. We are talking about transforming your entire district. And at your level, you can't be talking about speaking engagements. At your level, you have to be talking about communication transformation. How are you going to get people to move from A to B to Z? That's what we're working on.
That's right.
Yeah. So, people need to have to transition, change the way they communicate, the level at which they communicate, right? This goes into executive presence, which we're not going to talk about right now, but that's coming. So what role does consistency play in professional branding?
So I'll use a good example we can all connect with, right? Like, I think everybody, no matter what age you are, can connect to fast food. And so one of my favorite restaurants, because of the consistency of the service, is Chick-fil-A, right? Oh, yeah. And whether it's the my pleasure and, and just the smile and how they do what they do, to the point that's part of the brand, right? Like it's not just the chicken and we got the cow and all of that, but part of the brand is the atmosphere and the my pleasure. Thank you for your order. And I coached a couple directors and owner operators at a couple of Chick-fil-A's. And I tell people this all the time, that one of the performance elements was actually smiling. Like your rating, we smile at Chick-fil-A, right? So if you're not smiling, you're not measuring up. I don't know. And I'm not saying other restaurants or, fast food restaurants don't do it. I just don't know any of them that do it that well. Let's just say that. So that consistency plays such a role in it, because if we ever go to one and it's not happening, we're going to think something wrong. And that's what you want. You want to be so great and consistent at what you do, how you deliver, that when on the off day something doesn't go exactly as planned, nobody's even going to hold it against you. They're like, oh, well, I know Cedric, he is so consistent that's a fluke, because he's always ready. He always got a backup plan, right? Many of us have showed up and technology didn't work. We didn't cancel.
Right.
We delivered. We said, oh, well, here you go. And so when we're consistent, people know what to expect and what they can anticipate. And I would just add to this question, I think those of us who really understand the essence of this, not only are we consistent, but we also consistently over deliver. No matter what we put in the contract, what was in the pen and ink, people leave our experiences feeling as if they even got more than what they paid for. And I said that affects our professional branding.
Absolutely. So the question that's on the table is on your screen. So how intentional are you at representing your brand? I'm talking to the audience here, right? How intentional are you at representing your brand? Do you show up every day consistently, right? Do you know what your brand, what the market says your brand is? Meaning, what are clients saying? What are your friends and relatives and people that know you in the industry? What are they saying about you and your brand? That's what I mean when I say, how intentional are you, right? You feel free to chime in the chat with something there, but I just want to, make sure you're paying attention to that, because it is extremely, extremely important, right? So now I'm going to transition a little bit more, right? And we're going to get to rapid fire here in just a few minutes, but authority matters when you're established, right? But what happens when you pivot? See, what happens when you shift industries? What happens when you step into something new? See, reinvention doesn't erase credibility unless it's unmanaged. Angela transitioned from federal government into entrepreneurship. So, Angela, let's talk about repositioning, right? So, many professionals struggle with pivoting careers. So how do you reposition, or how did you reposition your professional brand without losing credibility?
So I think one of the things that we have to do is remind ourselves that who we are is consistent, right? So no matter who we're serving, part of the branding is about who we are and how we want to show up. Now, when we pivot, it actually gives us an opportunity, if we need to, because maybe we didn't do it exactly the way we wanted to the first time, to up level and reinvent ourselves. However, the credibility piece is really about, do other people say, kind of like the question you asked, like, do other people say about you what you hope they say? And if you have that credibility, then you can speak to how it is transferable. So when I first started my business, I tell people all the time, I took the layup. I was a federal employee. The first place I tried to serve was with public servants. It was a layup, because even though I had never worked with them in that capacity, I could at least establish a credibility because I understood their pain points, I understood their experiences. Then I took that experience that I got with them and moved over into working for some for-profits like Yelp and Chick-fil-A's and stuff like that, right? But it was still understanding that while their business sector may have been different, some of their pain points were transferable. From there, the nonprofit. So you can move and navigate, or then adding other services, things you've never done before. And so to me, the key is first understanding where your credibility is, and then using that message to speak to the audience that you want to pivot with and help them to understand that this experience, this credibility, and this knowledge is applicable to address your need.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So what mistakes do you think entrepreneurs make when trying to elevate their professional brand?
So I laughed when I first saw this question, Cedric, because one of the first things that jumped to my mind is actually trying to do too much. Wanting to be all things to all people, wanting 50 services, we talk about all the time, like, get a topic, get good at a thing and sell that thing, build some momentum there. And then you leverage that as you add more services. Maybe that's your complementary thing and to get you in the door, because the more you do it and you get, repetition, right? It's like practicing free throws. If I go outside and shoot 1,000 free throws every day, and of course my form is accurate, I'm not talking about sloppy shooting, and I'm practicing properly, I should be a pretty good free throw shooter. And
Yeah.
so it's the same thing about this, but I can't go out there and say, okay, I'm gonna practice for an hour, but I'm only gonna spend 5 minutes on free throws, and I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on layups, and I'm gonna spend 5 minutes on dunks, and then think I'm going to be great at any of them. And then also that belief that I gotta have everything, like, oh, I gotta have my website, I gotta have my business cards, I gotta have my this, I gotta have my that. No, you don't. Get your social media profile, start talking about what you're doing, make some phone calls, and knock on some doors. But, just thinking I got to have everything and do so much. And so many of them look up and it's been a year and they've done nothing but spend a lot of money. And they're not really good at anything, which is why when they get in the discovery meeting, they have nothing to offer.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a mouthful right there, right? Okay.
You see it. I know that's why you laugh, because it's true.
Hey. That's a mouthful right there. So, how important is executive presence in professional branding? In professional branding.
I think it's extremely important, and it's something that we're hearing a lot more about over these last few years. But the thing about it is, like, how we show up, executive presence, posture, we have to get in the mindset that, number one, we are an executive, especially if we're an entrepreneur. And sometimes we unintentionally say things like, oh, I got a little side business, or I got a little, we minimize it, not only for ourselves, but for the listener. Because going back to your point, if I need that transformational leadership, I need that up leveling in my company, I'm not going to go over here and take it to the little side business. I'm going to take it to the real business.
Right.
So executive presence is not just about how you show up, but it's how you present your business. Even if you only have one contract, show up and as that executive of that entity, and with the awareness that you are the peer to the person, that executive across the table to you. Because if you feel like, man, I'm just so honored to be in the room with them, and I really appreciate them, and I'm really, no, this wasn't charity.
Right.
This is two executives talking across the table together about what they need and how you can bring the resources to their organization to help them. And so, and I know sometimes early, so I'm gonna be really transparent, because I didn't always have that. Because I was like, well, I don't really have no clients yet, and don't nobody know me, and I'm in a new city. When I first started my business, I moved to a state I had never lived, a city I'd never lived in before. But I had to shift that thinking. So I think that it really matters, and it can impact how people perceive you more than we even realize.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. One of the things that I say, Angela, and I remember, I think the first time I said it to you, you said, oh, wow, I like that. So I say that LaFleur Leadership Institute, the reason why we exist is to help build best-in-class leaders.
Yes.
That's a positioning statement. I'm not here to do speaking and coaching and training. That's a background type thing. But my positioning statement is, we're here to build best-in-class leaders.
Yes.
Focus on helping leaders communicate with clarity when the stakes are high. You see, those type things, that's the way an executive is going to look at you and thinking, okay, I want to get this guy in the room. I want to sit down and talk with him. I want to go a little bit farther. So and this is a question, I didn't send you this question, but just based on this conversation here, do you think that entrepreneurs, or how important do you think entrepreneurs should work on their positioning statement, how they represent their business?
Oh, I think it's one of the most important things they can do, because even recently, just, when you said that, it made me think about the way I even message now, because one of the things I say consistently is, for my business, is when failure isn't an option, call us, right?
Yeah.
Because if you really want to win or resolve this issue, or, fix this problem, then call us. If you just want somebody to come in and, like you say, speak and have a good time, and your employees, oh, we had a great day of training, but nothing changes, then call somebody else. Because that's, I mean, we'll do it, but, that's not our gift. Our gift is really about helping you in some of the most, even trying leadership navigations, or, culture transformations, because anybody can come in and give a friendly talk. And I think once I got clear that where I do my best work is actually when there's a problem, then it helped me to see, oh, that's what really separates me from other people. Because I know 50,000 coaches that can come in there and give a talk on, everyone communicates if you connect, right?
Right.
So that's not, I can do that well, but that's not why you hired me.
Yes. Absolutely love that, folks. And if you're not picking up what Angela's putting down, you need to pause for a minute, take a deep breath, and rethink how you're positioning, right? My business is running really, really well, and I have repositioned some things. The statements I just made earlier, that's the way I've always positioned, and I continue to position it that way. But I've added a few things, and I'm just going to share some with you here. So we're talking about communication, right? And I told the superintendent, I said, look, strong communication isn't a soft skill. It's leadership infrastructure. And you need to understand that when communication improves, execution accelerates. See, clarity reduces friction. Friction slows performance. So the leaders who are going to win, they understand how to communicate with confidence under pressure. And he was like, that right there is what I need to have in my organization, so that my message at this level goes all the way down and doesn't get lost. See, when they don't have clarity, they have friction.
Yeah.
And friction is going to slow that performance. So you're spot on. And I'll tell you that for those who are listening, if you're not reevaluating how you position yourself, your business on a consistent basis, you might be missing some things, right? So you have to be very intentional with what you do, what you say, and how you represent your business on a daily basis. So now we are going to transition. I still have some more questions, but we might not get to them, but we may come back to them.
Okay.
But we're now it's time for what we call rapid fire. See, you've given us strategy, Angela. You've given us substance. You've given us structure. Now we're going to simplify things. We call this segment Unplugged and Unfiltered, the Leadership 10, right? 10 concise questions, no script, no overthinking, first thought, clear response. Let's get at it, right? So one word, Angela, that defines your professional brand.
Effective.
Effective. Awesome. All right. And audience, feel free to answer that question in the chat. I'll pop it on the screen if I see it for your business as well, right? So leadership is
essential.
Ooh, reputation or revenue?
Reputation.
Visibility or credibility?
Credibility.
The most overrated branding tactic is?
Oh, that was I would probably say videos and lives.
Okay. All right. The most underrated branding habit is?
Consistency.
Okay. All right. I think Sitsi said leadership is influence. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, not Sitsi, Dr. Hongwei. I'm sorry. A leader must always
be authentic.
Oh, one trait every entrepreneur must protect.
Trait. I would say Their humbleness.
All right. If your brand were a headline, it would say,
Leadership at every level for every sector.
oh, legacy is built through.
Longevity.
Oh man, look at that. All right. So now let's go into, let's do a little bit more rapid fire here. We're going to talk about women from a leadership lens, right? So what do women leaders need less of and more of?
That's a really good question. Women leaders, I think we need less. Oh, I hate to say it this way, but I can't help it. I think we need less coddling sometimes, right? And I don't want to say it, Cedric. I don't, because women gonna come for me. But I think sometimes we coddle a little bit too much, and I think we need more introspection, and more camaraderie. It's better than it used to be. I started working in 1989 professionally, but so it's a lot better, but it's still a lot of cattiness and, whatever the word we want to use, it just really is.
Yeah. So boundary setting or people pleasing, which one is harder?
Boundary setting.
Okay. Boundary setting, you say, is harder to unlearn?
Oh, harder. I'm sorry, it went out. People pleasing is harder to unlearn.
Okay. All right. So what should women stop apologizing for?
Everything. I hear, I'm sorry. What are we apologizing for? Oh my gosh. It's for many of us and not all of us. So I'm not talking about all women, but yeah, we apologize about everything.
Okay. All right. I don't see anybody putting anything in the chat. They're there, but they're not answering that. So
tough love, people, tough love.
Calling or career, what drives you?
Oh, calling.
Calling. All right. So faith strengthens leadership. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. And last one in rapid fire. Who are you accountable to when no one's watching?
God.
Ooh, she went deep on us there. Okay.
At the end of the day, I always think about the song, Michael Jackson, Man in the Mirror. And of course there are poems and other things, but ultimately we got to be able to look ourselves in the mirror or lay our head down at night and know that, not that none of us were perfect, but we did our best and we were true to who we said we are and who we feel like we were called to be. And if there's something we can fine tune to do a little better next time, then let's do that. But ultimately it's God, because, I get convicted when I'm out of order.
Yeah, absolutely. So folks, we always have a worksheet for you to download. I'm going to give you that link here in just a minute. But what I want us to do is we talked a little bit about all the different areas, but we didn't get to talk about legacy. So we're going to, visibility attracts attention, credibility builds trust, but legacy outlives both of those, right? So at some point, branding stops being about opportunity and starts being about imprint. What imprint do you want to say? I tell people, think about 100 years from now. What do you want people to say about your time on earth? Right? So let's zoom out a little bit, Angela. Let's talk about legacy.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So how does professional branding shape long-term leadership legacy?
So legacy is all about imprint. And I think professional branding shapes that because, again, who are we? Like, that's what our brand is. And so as we continue to go on, our legacy is what outlives us and outlives our business name or our business tenure. People will say 15, 20 years from now, some of those same schools you're in today, like somebody will come in and do a great job. They're like, you remind me of when LaFleur came in here, right? Because that's your legacy, the impact. I heard Cedric LaFleur coming here 20 years ago. And ever since then, I've done this. And that's a part of our legacy as change agents. And And your brand talks about it. You just described it. So that's how it impacts your legacy.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna get one last question around legacy. So if someone Googles Angela Hooper Menifield, what do you hope they consistently find?
That the services that were provided by my business and myself had an impact, a positive impact, because you can impact people negatively, but a positive impact, and help them shift their thinking, their mindset, or their vibrational frequency. And that's what I hope. And sometimes you just never know. I literally had somebody text me. They had to get my number from somebody else that I hadn't talked to in years. And they was like, Miss Angela, I just got a promotion. And I want to thank you for being one of the first people who believed in me, 15, 16 years ago. I got your number from somebody else. That to me was as big as any payday I might have gotten this past month. Like, I was like, I'm so happy for her. And, and I'm happy that I played a little role, because she did the work, right? But that's what I hope they see, that there are these people out there who say, my life is better, my family is better, my community is better, because I had a chance to work with Angela.
Yeah. Well, here's what I'm going to tell her audience. So, Angela, you start sending the checks to me, and then I'll just send phone calls to you. Okay.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
All right. So, you said, hey, it was more important. So, all right, let's
I don't know if I use the words more important, but okay, I said better.
So last question for you here. So what advice would you give to entrepreneurs who feel invisible in their industry?
Well, the first thing I would tell them is, you actually are not invisible. So let's shift that thinking. And maybe you even start with some positive statements every day to tell yourself, I'm relevant, I'm a change agent, I am seen, because in order to shift the invisibility belief, you got to shift what you think. Number one. Number two, what we know is none of us are invisible, because people will tell you what they saw you doing later, and you'll be like, I didn't think anybody saw that. So that's the other piece. But then lastly, then do something about it. Like, get seen, volunteer, go to events, offer to do something. And even though, we really want to be paid, if you really believe that nobody sees you, then just offer to support somebody. And you do that 1 or 2 times, then people will call you back, and then people will see you. But, work with people like even us, right? We talk about that all the time. Come, we need assistance and things like that. Like, we can help you do those things. And we are givers. So we don't need all the business. Yes. Sometimes it's a subcontract. I told somebody today, I got to find another coach to work on a contract that I'm working on, and I got to find the right one, because this leader needs, I know what they need, but you just never know. But if nobody knows that you feel that way, number one, and you're not putting yourself out there and volunteering and trying to support, then it'll be harder to change. But the end result is, Cedric, nobody's invisible.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. Angela, thank you for the clarity and perspective you brought to the conversation tonight. I definitely appreciate that. I can see our audience appreciate that as well. So if there's one takeaway tonight, it's this: your personal brand introduces you. Your professional brand sustains you. Right? I'm going to say that again, because I want to make sure that you get it, you understand it. Your personal brand introduces you, and your professional brand sustains you. One gets you noticed, the other earns you trust. And leadership is built on trust. This has been another episode of Cedric Unplugged Leadership Insights, where we examine leadership at the level it's required. I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. So we're not done yet. I always have a worksheet. I did put the link in the chat, and I'm going to put that back in there again, just so that you get it. But Angela, why don't you share with the audience what those questions are on that worksheet?
All right. So this week's assignment, professional brand. What do you want to be known for in your industry? Number 2, does your online presence reflect your expertise? Number 3, does your character match your competence? I got to do this on that one. That's a good one. I'm going to say that one again. Number 3, does your character match your competence? Number 4, we want you to ask 3 people, what comes to mind when you hear my name professionally? And then the last one, number 5, create a 1-sentence authority statement about your work. I love that. Do that. Definitely do that. And I would say, come back to this recording. Cedric can tell me to say this part. Come back to this recording. Put it in the comments. I want to see some authority statements.
Yes, absolutely. 100% agree with you. Thank you for reading those questions, guys. The link is in the chat, in the comments. So go ahead and get that. If you're on LinkedIn as well, the link is there. You know, leadership is not a title, it's influence, and influence is earned. So lead with clarity, lead with courage, and lead with character. Last thing I'm going to tell you, and then we're going to be out of here. So, you know, I am a 11-time author now, soon to be 12, and I am now also an official publisher. As of yesterday, we had our first client. We published their book. It's going to be out on here. Yes. So Turning Pages is turning some things, and the new automated platform is launching March 10th. We're excited about it, and it's going to change the way publishing is done and media operations is done. We have some amazing things that are coming down the pike. And if you didn't see the post I posted yesterday about me making phone calls to some individuals, go check it out. I am going to be making phone calls to individuals. If I call you, like I said in the post, just say yes. Don't tell me you thinking of, you got to think about it. You got to sleep on it. Don't tell me any of that, because the opportunity is going to last as long as we're on that phone. Once it's over, right? I'm calling you because I feel, based on who I am and what I've observed of you, that you can help us with this next phase where we're going. So be prepared to say yes. If you can't say yes, no hard feelings. We're just going to move on. Thank you again for tuning in to Cedric Unplugged Leadership Insights. We'll be back here next Monday. I'm excited about it. This Saturday, we'll be doing the Saturday morning masterclass. It's going to be about assessments. And then we have a call after that. And then next Saturday, following Saturday, we're going to dive into executive presence. Okay. Now, you want to be in that class. I'm telling you. You just want to be in that class. If you want to elevate your language, your executive presence, trust me, you want to be in that class. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Angela. I appreciate everything that you always do. So again, thank you. And you guys, good night.